We have new information of the coming Phone 1 by nothing, and with this, I really feel that there is nothing. Hi, welcome to Zgadgetreview. The Nothing phone was outed a few days ago, and we only got a glimpse of the back of the device, how cool it's going to look with all those lights and all those cool design features that other devices don't have. Some of the things that we didn't know were specs, pricing, and also the fact that it's only going to be sold in the UK. They're saying that it might make it to the US at some point, but the way this device actually is being made, now that we have the specs that have leaked and pricing, I feel like it's not going to make it to the US, because what I've seen so far makes it a device that is going to be useful right now, but in about a year is pretty much going to be obsolete. So if the phone does make it to the US, I will say that it will probably come on the second iteration of the phone, if there ever is a second iteration of the device. And everything I'm saying right now is going to make more sense once I go through the leaked specs. So if you were not disappointed by the news of the Nothing Phone 1 before, well, you most likely will be disappointed now, because this turns out that it's going to be a mid-range device. It isn't going to be a spec'd out phone as most were expecting, including me. It's going to be a middle of the road phone, and there's nothing wrong with that, but the way Nothing was touting this device, they were making it seem that it was going to be a device that was going to come out to compete with the big dogs, and that's just not going to be the case. So the phone is going to have a 120 Hertz Oled panel, so at least we have that. We have an Oled panel, 120 Hertz. I will venture to say that this isn't going to be a 4K display, but most likely a 1080p display. If it's 4K, great, but I don't think so. Moving right along, it's going to have the Snapdragon 778 Plus as the chip inside the device, a processor, instead of the Snapdragon 7 Gen as we have heard before. We also have 8 gigs of RAM, but it seems as it's actually going to be 3 different flavors when it comes to this phone, and I will get into that in just a little bit, but 8 gigs of RAM. We're going to also have a 4500 milliamp hour battery with 40 watt fast charging, so that's good news. When it comes to the camera, the back camera is going to be a 50 megapixel plus a 16 megapixel dual rear camera. Front facing camera is going to be 16 megapixels and is going to, of course, ship with Android 12. Now that 4500 milliamp hour battery, of course, is going to be doing double duty, because it's also going to be powering the lights on the back of the device. So I'm curious to see how the lights on this phone are going to impact the battery life on the device. Keeping in mind that the Pixel 6 has a 4600 milliamp hour battery and the Pixel 6 Pro has a 5000 milliamp hour battery, and they don't use any lights, just to give you an idea of how the battery size on this phone compares to those other two devices. Why do I say that there's probably going to be 3 different flavors on this device? The reason is because there's also have been a leak of what the phone is going to cost, and it looks like there's going to be 3 different variants, of course, and 3 different pricings. The 8GB in RAM, 128 gigs of storage, starting at $400. Then we move on to that 8 gigs of RAM with 256 gigs of storage at $420. And finally, we get a 12 gigabit RAM with 256 gigs of storage at $450. Of course, these are leaks. It doesn't mean that this is going to be 100%. If Nothing really wants to make a splash with this phone, it will make sense that it will have the 3 variants out there, especially between the 8 gig and the 12 gig of RAM, right? That will give you a boost on what the phone can do when it comes to performance, especially now that we know that it's paired with a lower tier Snapdragon chipset. Which brings me to my next point of why do I think that it isn't going to come to the US anytime soon? Because with these specs and being 2022 and all the devices that we have coming out later in the year, in the next few months from Samsung, and of course Sony is going to bring out their new devices as well. I know that one just came out, but everything gets announced later in the year. Google, iPhone. So we have all these other devices, powerhouses coming out with their devices that I feel that if nothing was to wait until next year to bring this phone, it will be kind of a losing bet, in my opinion. Based on the information that we have, if it's true, I am thinking that nothing's most likely going to hold on to this device, sell it in the UK, kind of get an idea of how the market works, create more of this FOMO effect, as I said on my previous video, by giving you special treatment and if you get to be one of the people who can buy this device. Also because they're going to have a limited run. So all this, of course, is going to create, excitement and people wanting this device in the market. But if you're one of those people, maybe, as I said before, tamper down your expectations or maybe get rid of those expectations if these specs turn out to be true, because it isn't going to be that great of a device. I'm not, again, crapping on the phone because as a mid-range phone, sounds great. As a mid-range device, if this is the price, it's a great get for $400. Hell yeah. $450, 12 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of storage. Hell yeah, sounds great. But again, depends on what you're going to do with the device. But if you were expecting a top-of-the-line phone, if you were expecting for nothing to come out of the gate with something that was going to blow people's socks off, well, doesn't seem like that is going to be the case. How do you feel about the new leak that we have about the Nothing Phone 1, the specs? Do they speak to you? Are you disappointed now that you have more information about this device? Are you still excited about this phone and can't wait to get your hands on it, even if chances are unlikely for you to get one based on the way they are going to be selling this phone? Let me know in the comment section. That is it for me. Go ahead and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. Go ahead and hit that bell so you can be alerted every time we have new videos. Thank you very much for watching.